Hi everyone, I hope you had a great summer. I'm here just to talk about the new Key Stage 4 curriculum, but obviously I'm not in school today, so I made you this video. So I've got like a series of questions to pose you to have a chat about, and then I've got my thoughts as well. So the first question, you could just spend 2 minutes talking about is, why do you think we have rewritten the Key Stage 4 curriculum? What are the rationales? I mean, it is, after all, a huge amount of work for the department to do. So if you could just pause the video now and then have a quick discussion. Okay, so some of the reasons that I thought about, although there are many, many more, and I'm sure you've come up with these and more, was the fact that it was an opportunity to develop the growth mindset of our students, allowing them to take more risks with their learning. There were more opportunities for assessment and feedback, lots more opportunities for Purple Pen. There were more opportunities for students to have guided practice and independent practice, so all those things that we talk about from the Rosenstein principles. There's lots less copying off the board, which doesn't really help the students develop their understanding of concepts. And then there was also more opportunities for teachers to tailor the lessons to their class's need, including adapting the route through to ensure the basic concepts were fully understood. So you didn't feel that pressure of having to get through every single lesson and the content. It's about making sure the students understand the basics and then build upon those foundational knowledge and understanding. Okay. So with that will come more medium-term planning needed. It's not like we can just go to the folder and open up a lesson and everything that for that lesson will be there. We need to think about the sequence of lessons, what we're going to be doing in those lessons. So this is my route through for P2 next year. It's not quite finished yet, but you can see the lessons in there, and there is every single lesson in there, or all the information has been separated out. So this is a 19 lesson sequence for P2. On the assessment calendar, there are 12 lessons available for P2. I think we need to have a discussion about the 12 lessons because I'm not sure that is enough to teach all of this. However, I've gone on 12 lessons for this. So think about a class that you've got next year. It might be a class, I think P2 is in year 10. So you might have taught them in year 9, you might not have, but you probably already have a good sense of what course they're studying, whether it's combined science or triple, and then what level they're at. And just with the people on your table, have a think about what would your medium-term plan be for your class? So i.e. what lessons in this route through would you teach and in what order? Okay. What are the rationales behind the decisions you have made? And if it doesn't go to plan, so let's say they know more or they develop faster than you thought, what would you do? What can you do? How would you develop your medium-term plan? So if we just pause the video and if we could have, I don't know how much time we've got, so maybe 5 to 10 minutes discussion about this. What would your route through be? What would your medium-term plan be for this topic and why? Okay, so hopefully you've been able to have some discussions about that and your rationale behind it. I'm just going to share with you what mine might be for different classes. Maybe the rationales are the same as for you. So this would be for a combined science foundation class. So we don't need to do lesson 1 and 2 because they're for triple only. Lesson 3 is really important about circuit symbols and basic terminology, and I have made a video on YouTube about a basic terminology which I was setting for homework as well, so we really understood that. Then lesson 4, just as it is. Lesson 5 is all about V equals IR, and then it goes into parallel and series circuits. So I thought, well, actually, there's a computer program called PhET, which does computer circuits. So I would use that to measure V, I, and R, and then do some calculations with it. And then for lesson 4, I would do some exam practice questions on it because that's quite hard. And then lesson 5 and 6 would be using that PhET or practical to then do some series and parallel circuits and do the rules, but making sure that the students really understood those rules, because that's something that they find quite difficult. Then lesson 8 is RP4. So 2 lessons on that, making sure I do an assessment and question practice, long answer question practice. And then lesson 10 and 11 would be doing the RP3, which is the resistance one. And again, making sure I do a long answer question on it. And then 16 and 17 together just at the end. It might be that during the 6s, 8s and 10s, I could reduce that depending on what they might end up doing. And then I could bring in some of the level 2 stuff more. So again, those rationales are there for higher, but again, it's not important the way that I would do it, it's just the fact I've sat down and thought about how I would teach this and what order I would do it in and why. So I think that's really important in your medium-term plan. This took me like 3 minutes, okay? So it just allows me to have an idea then of what I would do. And then the same for the higher tier, triple science. That was really hard to do because they have more information. Although I did end up with 2 lessons spare quite randomly. However, what I would then do is have this medium-term plan along with the route through in my Fin folder. And I would make notes on it and you annotate it as I go along to say, okay, yep, this was right. So if everything went to plan, I'd just probably tick it off, but it might be I needed more time on this. So then I'd have a look and reshuffle the lessons and things. But I would very much use that as a working document. I wouldn't use it as logging onto a computer to do that, just like for my own notes. Okay, hopefully some of those are the same rationales that you had. Next, I want to talk about lesson planning. I never forget my first training session with Jason. He put this picture up of England-Germany match. I don't like football, as we know, but I thought it was a really good way to talk about lessons. So he was talking about in terms of engagement. So he said, if you split your lesson up into 6, it's not like you might not have your students' attentions or their engagement for all 6 of those parts of the lessons, but if you can make it 5-1 or 4-2 or in the majority then you're winning. Now I use it in I actually started to think about this in a slightly different way of actually, well, if I split my lesson up into 5 or 6 parts, I find 6 quite hard, but 5 or 6 parts, then it allows me to keep track of what I'm doing in those 5 or 6 parts. It allows me to then think about assessment for those 5 or 6 parts, and it allows me to have a good variety within my lesson. So what I'd like you to do is just have a discussion. My head's in the way of the question. What activities would you use to plan an engaging lesson for students which enables them to tackle hard concepts and assess their learning? So try and split it up into 5 or 6 parts. What different activities would you do in each part? The percentages on here, I can't get rid of them. So they don't necessarily mean anything, although I think they're probably a good way to separate out the lesson. But yeah, have a discussion and see what you think. Three, two, one. Okay, so these are what my thoughts are. They might echo what you were saying. I think I put 6 parts on this one actually. Yeah, so in the first part, the start might include some retrieval practice, maybe a spellings test, definitions test. Then the next part might be the introduction of the concept or the introduction of the practical activity. So I'm usually teacher-based because you're trying to get across to them the concepts that they need to learn, and that needs to come from you, the expert in the room. Some sections of guided practice, maybe with a visualizer, maybe some worked problems, could be a mix, some slightly easier tasks, maybe a mix and maths or a fill in the blank with some discussion time or maybe some directed questioning. And then you need the independent practice. So in this part, the students are working on their own through problems or on an experiment with the view that you're going to assess their learning through it. So it might be exam questions they're doing, although I would say that we really should be using more exam questions because that is how our students are going to be assessed at the end of the course. some practical, could be a mode B task, could be a long answer question, could be a literacy task, could be, and in that time you can then go and support those students who need it, and maybe do some live assessment. So take your pen round, take a stamp round and go round and have a look at what the students are actually doing in that time. Then there needs to be some assessment of that learning. Purple pen, maybe using a visualizer, discussion of your practical outcomes, peer marking possibly, students making notes on improvement for next time. But that assessment section is really, really important for the students' growth mindset, to enable them to know what mistakes they've made, okay, for them to be okay with the fact they've making those mistakes, but also to allow them to do better next time. I did put 6 on this time. I do find 6 quite hard with the time. But then I thought, oh, you could have an exit. So like maybe an exit ticket, a question that they have to answer before they leave, could be a quick keyword test, or some sort of, or it could be a really fun activity just as they leave your lesson, so they leave smiling. Okay, so the last thing I just wanted to say is when the lessons happened, it does need you to have an evaluation of it, not like one of those full write-ups we used to do when we were newly qualified, but just think about it. So as the students are leaving, okay, did they get this, and how do I know they got it? Do I really know they've got it? Do I need to move on to the next lesson, or do I need to spend a whole more lesson working on this? Do I need another assessment to judge their understanding of this concept because I didn't get that they understood it, and where in the rest of that sequence can I just provide that opportunity? It could just be that you think, oh, I'll just do an exam question at the start of next lesson or in a few lessons time just to see if that knowledge has been embedded, and then just have a quick look at what's coming up next. So that's when I talked about having that medium term in your term planning in your Fin folder, because you can just quickly write a note on it. Like, it doesn't have to be an essay, oh, just move this lesson here, or add an assessment, or didn't get this, need to put it back in. And it might be that you can't plan to put it to, so like this one, they need to work on this some more. It might be that you've already planned a practical for the next lesson, so you know you can't do that, but it could be where you could just indicate where you're going to slot it in. And I think it's really important that we are bold with our teaching this year, and we think, okay, we're not going to move on from something until our students really understand it, because like, if they don't get the terms potential difference and current, they're not going to be able to understand series and parallel circuits. And so until they can do that, there's no point moving on. And I think that's true for all of our subjects. I hope this has been helpful, and I'm sort of looking after the new key implementation of the Key Stage 4 curriculum. So if anybody has any questions or wants help with doing any of this, or you've never done medium-term planning, or you want some support with lesson planning and ideas for different parts of the lesson, please come and see me, because that is going to be my major role as we move through the year. Okay, thank you. Bye.